and welcome to Get the Table, another wrestling roundtable discussion podcast where myself and the Dadley Boyz of WhatCulture discuss another burning wrestling issue. But before we get into it, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on either iTunes or Spotify for daily wrestling podcasts where we review Raw, SmackDown, pay-per-views, we have interviews, more roundtable discussions like this one, and a roundup of the week, complete with a bloody good quiz, of course, on WrestleCulture. But gents, Monday Night Raw returns tonight. A lot of anticipation for this week's Monday Night Raw. How do they follow one of the best Raws ever?
Now that the initial shock of that incredible angle of Batista returning last week has worn off, I'm starting to get pedantic again in trademark Sidgwick style. I'm starting to get a bit pedantic because if you remove yourself from how great that angle was and start looking at the established continuity and how you want that to feed into WrestleMania 35's presumed storyline, why is Batista murdering his idol? I mean, those words don't really make a whole lot of sense when you think about it. And why does he want Triple H's attention that much when he decisively defeated him en route to becoming like an established legend in WWE's lore? I'm very interested to see how this works, if they can fill a plot hole, if it is indeed a plot hole, or make sense of it within the established continuity. I've got no idea, but it was such an out-of-nowhere, shocking angle that I'm really invested in where it goes.
Yeah, I'm wary when they sort of build it up as Triple H responds, because the last thing I want at this point in the storyline is Triple H to have any power. We've discussed before that he's at his best when he's actually showing a sense of insecurity, a sense of realism that we all have to suffer sometimes in life, that he's so often impervious to. And last week was so great because for reasons that Cedric has explored that we don't fully understand, Batista has clamoured for Triple H's attention despite definitively beating him a decade ago. Triple H is a guy that theoretically has no worries, and Batista has given him one of his biggest ones in years. I don't want him to come on Raw this week and almost talk his way through it and take off the suit and put on the leather jacket and say, you want to fight, Batista? You've got to fight. Because I don't want Triple H to be in the controlling situation in this. I'd like either Batista to turn up and do something even worse, or just Triple H to admit that he's shocked and he's saddened and he's disappointed, and then somehow find a way for Batista to double down on it. I'd rather Triple H be the one on the defensive for a change.
Do you think Batista shows up on Monday Night Raw tonight?
I think he does. I hope
so.
Yeah, I really hope so. I think it was telling last week that they didn't promote him for Ric Flair's birthday or otherwise, because that would have given the game away. But it would be nice, even though we know he's back in the picture, for him to do yet another surprise appearance, because again, everything's usually telegraphed or foreshadowed to within an inch of its life. That if we can get more of that spirit of last week, that reckless, dangerous, out of nowhere booking, I think it could serve the storyline really effectively. But as I said, to reiterate, my only concern at this point is the motive. I want the motive not necessarily explained away because we've got weeks left until WrestleMania, but I want it to make a certain bit of sense that isn't completely and utterly given away. But like now that we're here, theoretically, what could that motive be? I've got no idea. The only thing that I could vaguely aim at is that Batista and WWE enjoy this kind of well, I wouldn't say enjoy. They have this strange relationship where he's not framed in the massive legend, megastar, crossover celebrity way like The Rock is. He hasn't been invited whenever his schedule permits to come back and just do something, anything, because he's a star and we can get a ratings number out of him. And maybe he could be resentful of that and prove that he's got something left. Maybe they could even acknowledge how his 2014 run went, because that would be a nice like mea culpa almost for how they were very antagonistic in their portrayal of Batista as this returning hero when we've got a hero for the now, and he's Daniel Bryan. So something like that isn't this kind of, we've got years and years of history to trade on that we're not going to trade on. And my worry is that we've been here before. The whole Triple H Undertaker stuff of WrestleMania 27, which admittedly turned out wonderfully, but they wouldn't acknowledge that they'd already had a match at WrestleMania 17 and it didn't go well for Triple H. And again, that would have lent more drama and heft to the storyline, but they erased the continuity there, and I really don't think, given how drastic a departure we've seen on Monday night, that that's the way to go. I think they should tie it together somehow.
Batista, when he was interviewed by our very own Adam Cleary when he's promoting Final Score, always said that the only reason he'd come back to WWE after that fairly disastrous run in 2014 was if he got something that he really enjoyed, something he could really get his teeth into. Do you think that could be something related to what we've seen?
I do, actually, and I agree with the idea that they're playing slightly off our understanding of Batista's fractious relationship with WWE. How I believe they'll do it and how they'll tie that into the storyline without having to pull the curtain back too far and talk about, dare I say it, like the slightly boring issues of the whatever the disagreements are between them, is they'll use his appearance on SmackDown last year. They can easily have Batista, the Hollywood star, come out and say, how dare you not promote me as the star of your big celebratory show? You just dropped me in, Triple H, as one of your Evolution buddies, as one of your running guys. You know, I should have been the headline attraction of that show. Even when I turned up on it, I stole it. I dared to promote a match with you and I was the biggest deal on it, and yet all of a sudden I'm just reduced to one of your cronies. That's the way that you tie in. As we said last week, the mention of the little CM Punk line, do I have your attention now? There's got to be something there. There's got to be Batista sort of using what we know of this heat, if you want to use that phrase, between them, but they've already got a storyline clip that they can use. You know, we saw on Twitter last week the clip of Ric Flair standing between them being circulated as if that can now be woven into the storylines. Randy Orton in the background just bantering the whole thing off, as we believe he would probably do in real life. He'll no doubt be nowhere near this, but I think that's the footage they can use and that's the storyline they can use without having to go anywhere near the real life stuff that might alienate a certain section of the fan base.
Yeah, I think a lot of wrestling fans do want to see more callbacks to that SmackDown 1000 promo, because that's what got us initially all so excited about this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Hamflet's eloquently stated, like, that could be the trigger that is, in a sense, like, sent him absolutely mental, because he was deranged on Monday.
Yeah.
But if you're going to escalate it that much, I need some kind of explanation, not necessarily exposition, because Christ knows we get enough of that, but an explanation of sorts is certainly required for me to just get fully engaged with the storyline.
But as a means to an end to get you invested in Monday Night Raw, like I don't think I've looked forward to an episode of Monday Night Raw, like, aside from a post Big Four pay-per-view, for example. I've not looked forward to this. You know, if someone said to me, how much do you reckon you're going to be looking forward to the Go Home Raw for Fastlane a few months ago?
I bet I can't wait for Raw tonight. There's a 20-minute Triple H promo coming. When have you ever been excited about one of those? And you get one of them once every 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, I'm very invested in all of this. But it's not the only reason why people are so much looking forward to Monday Night Raw. We have the Shield, which we will get to, but we also have the question of the Raw Women's Championship. The match as it stands is Raw Women's Champion Ronda Rousey versus Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania, as we all saw Vince McMahon's meddling in that recently. Obviously, Becky Lynch has been getting involved. She got arrested after Monday Night Raw last week for interfering in the tag match between the Riot Squad and Natalya and Ronda. And then obviously Ronda cut this promo. She called out Vince. She got knockoff Vince Steph. And she demanded that she made the right decision and reinstate Becky or drop the charges or whatever. And when Steph didn't agree to that, she left the Raw Women's Championship in the ring. And Charlotte on SmackDown said, I know my lane, I stay in it, I thrive in it. I'm the biggest superstar in the entire women's division. They should probably just give me the Raw Women's Championship on Monday Night Raw. How do you see this playing out?
I don't know how I see it playing out, but can I give you my facetious what I want to see first?
Yes.
I want to see, in the middle of that ring, a desk. I want to see a desktop computer on it. I want to see the monitor linked to the Titantron. I want to hear Bad Reputation ring out on the speakers. Ronda Rousey makes her way to the ring, and just, I wanted a live tweet for 15 minutes. Some kind of response to Becky Lynch. I just need to see it, because that is the best thing she's done in this feud so far. I find it, I called her on, I think it was Friday. It was a little bit too late to capture the tweet likes and the retweets, but just rowdy Ronda Russo. And I just want to.
A little bit too late on Twitter. Was that not a bit of a meta joke at Ronda's expense? Is that what you were doing?
That was obviously what it was. No, honestly, I just think that I want to see them in a less facetious way play on this recent Twitter buzz that they've concocted for themselves on social media, because I find it absolutely fascinating. Like, I really do. Because Ronda Rousey is turning herself heel while at the same time wondering aloud why the fans don't like her. And I just find it absolutely fascinating. To be less facetious and more actually realistic about it, I do think that tell them within reason to go out there, her and Becky Lynch, to have like a verbal spat that doesn't necessarily have to be scripted. Like, don't swear, obviously. These are the certain things you're not meant to do, Ronda. You're not meant to bury submission holds as fake and sell them months previously because it makes you look like an idiot. But I think the dynamic at this point, and I don't trust necessarily WWE creative to prolong what they've already done for like however many weeks are left. Just do a variation on what John Cena and Roman Reigns did in late 2017, was it?
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think, on a personal philosophical level of how I approach professional wrestling, that's the way to go. But I was just so fixed to my smartphone the other night when it all kicked off that I just think, if you've already like set the waters running on this, just keep going, keep swimming, or keep sinking, as the case may be.
Yeah, I'm a lot more positive about all this Twitter interaction. I personally believe that there's more to do. There's more credit that could be dished out to both Becky, Ronda, and WWE for what they've crafted here. I'm not so sure that this is something that's got way out of hand or exploded in the way that maybe some people would believe. And that's not a criticism on those people that believe that, or particularly, like a great deal of credit to WWE, because it requires people on Twitter to carry the momentum of these tweets forward. They could just ignore Becky and Ronda's back and forth and just wait for Raw to come around every week. But what I do think WWE can use from this is how they've recently employed Vince McMahon to be this old-headed spoiler of Shane and Stephanie's plans with both Charlotte and with Kevin Owens. What I'd quite like to see this week is Becky and Ronda in some sort of very, very tense confrontation. Charlotte standing on the ramp, trying to keep away from it. As a lot of Twitter users have actually positioned her in this feud now, they've been suggesting that Becky and Ronda are these two scrapping kids, and Charlotte is just waiting on the sidelines, ready to pick the bones. This is people investing in the storylines in, a lot of different ways, which is nice to see. I think you could easily see Becky and Ronda as these sort of two fighting forces in the ring, while Stephanie and Shane try and resolve the situation for the good of the belt, which Ronda left on the ring last week. And then Vince McMahon, again, just bring Charlotte out and say, let's just do away with all this. I don't care about Twitter. I don't care about you idiots, you mouthy fools. I care about this woman who I want to be champion. And I dare say it'll be left there because he's an old carny and he wants to save it to the pay-per-view, even though nobody buys the shows anymore because he called us all idiots for doing so. I feel like this will drag itself to Fastlane, where that's probably where I'll get the announcement of the triple threat.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting dangerously close to a McMahon in every corner there, but I'll let that slide. Yeah, I sense that if there is going to be a coronation on a new Raw Women's Champion crown, because then you can do the whole Ronda never lost the belt, etc., and depending on what happens with her career post-WrestleMania, then you left yourself some wide open options. For me, as a fan, all I can think is, why has no one told Ronda to stop tweeting? Because you have very clearly defined roles in this. You have Charlotte, who is the heel. Everyone hates Charlotte. She's doing phenomenal work on Twitter as a result of that, retweeting people and then just burying them. Becky is doing what Becky's done for the last 6 months. And I can't help but feel, I know we've got a history of this and you can't really control it that much. I can't help but feel Ronda should be the one in the middle. You're not going to get everyone to boo her and you're not going to get everyone to cheer her right now. But she's a badass. She lets her abilities do the talking. So if anything, stop tweeting. Don't respond.
I don't know.
anything.
I think that's a slight wrestling echo chamber, perhaps. I think that's maybe part of Ronda's appeal, is to just be organic. She's got to be believably herself, for better and worse. We, as the liberal cook soy boys that we are, can't all agree with Ronda's philosophies throughout life.
Interchangeable liberal soy cooks.
There you go. like we can't take everything Ronda believes in her personal life and approach her professional career. We just have to enjoy what we like about Ronda and then maybe brush aside what we don't like. Similarly, there'll be fans of hers that really appreciate the type of stuff she tweets and yet don't care that she's moved into the fake world of wrestling compared to when she was in mixed martial arts. So she's got to be as close to herself as possible to get this character over, to be the alien, as I believe Michael Sidgwick has called her before, in this very real personal feud between Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch, to be this outside force. I personally don't believe the belt's going to be put back on her, because I think that adds to something that she's now got to fight for, whereas previously she was just defending it. And I quite like her. I think for all that, look, this Twitter could be real. This could be something she's getting help with from WWE as part of a storyline they're weaving on Twitter. But if this is who she is personally, I don't think it's a bad thing, because I think if anyone can get away with a mixed reaction with 80,000 people, it probably is Ronda Rousey, while you've got a straight babyface and a straight heel. Maybe you do want a tweener in the middle in the form of Rousey, rather than just trying to keep her as the sort of the babyface that desperately wants Becky in for the good of the match.
Who do you think by the end of Fastlane will be Raw Women's Champion, if anyone?
I've got no idea, and it's to their credit, because this isn't a Vince Russo storyline where I've got no idea where it's going, because none of it makes sense, and additionally, I don't care. This is a unpredictable storyline that perfectly suits every character within it. I if I'm going to hesitate to guess, this is purely speculative. Obviously, I don't have any insider information, and it's weighed by what I would like to see. I love Ronda Rousey's in-ring work so much that I would just like to see at Fastlane a Battle Royal scenario where she's back in it, maybe against her will, but she's told that she doesn't get the chance at WrestleMania at all, whatever happens, and just see her just judo through people over that top rope, win it again, and just frame her as this unpredictable fighter that you absolutely cannot strategize against because she's so brilliant. Have her absolutely kill everyone in that field in the Royal Rumble, in the Battle Royal at Fastlane, and then ultimately she is then portrayed as this unbeatable force of pure unadulterated credibility, and that for me will eventually get Becky Lynch, no matter how she gets back into the match, will frame her as she's going to have to do something amazing to get this belt off her.
Very quickly before we move on, how do they bring Becky Lynch back into this and make it a triple threat, do you think?
Well, I actually think she comes back into it at Fastlane. I really like that idea of Ronda becoming a two-time champion. Personally, how I see them doing this, as we've talked about, this is the sort of perfectly booked triple threat in that everything relates to all three of them the whole time. It was Ronda costing both Becky and Charlotte by pushing them off a ladder in December. So I think they keep it vacant and they hang it. And to alleviate any worries that Vince McMahon still has left about women WrestleMania, WrestleMania main event in his big show, they stick it in a ladder match, and that's the final payoff. Nobody needs to get pinned, nobody needs to submit, but Becky gets to win for the crown and glory, and then the rematches that you've got afterwards are there. So how she goes back into that, I think, is probably just as a result of Vince, as I say, the old sort of guy, the curmudgeon, wanting neither Ronda or Becky having anything to do with it, and it being simply put in the laps of the fans. This is that payoff to that the fans, the general manager thing. This is Shane and Stephanie succeeding power to the audience, and the audience very vocally, as they were chanting last week, chanting for triple threat, and in both Ronda and Becky both go with Charlotte as Vince's obvious pick as the chairman's favourite. So nobody needs to come out with this a loser, basically. All of them can look like they've got worthy places into the match.
There's still a very exciting storyline happening on Monday Night Raw that we haven't covered yet. Obviously, last week we saw the fantastic announcement that Roman Reigns' leukemia is in remission. He had a lovely reunion with Seth Rollins, and later on in the night, him and Seth came down to save Dean Ambrose from a beating. There wasn't the Shield fist bump thing that they normally obviously used to do. There's still a lot of water under the bridge when it comes to Dean and Seth, especially in the aftermath of Roman's terrible announcement a few months ago. But can you see a Shield reunion on the cards eventually?
There's so many variables to this equation, not least of which the fact that Dean Ambrose, as of a few weeks ago, was on his way out of the company, but then Roman Reigns has apparently said to a fan, I will deal with this. Whether Dean Ambrose is receptive to this, I've got no idea. He's an emotional bloke, he could just be hoodwinked into saying, you know what, I've got some influence here. I know you're shaken by the fact that I had some terrible bad news, but it's better now. I've got absolutely no idea. From a storyline perspective, it's strange because the Shield reformations of the last 2 years have been snake bit and been very, very cynical in theory, but it would be such a nice image of what a wonderful, great, powerful stable this was if we can get some kind of reunion in a way that people actually are clamouring to see it and not something that's being force-fed to them. I personally, if I was booking this, would have this reunion at Fastlane, have that nice moment, leave it, and then on the Raw afterwards, have Dean Ambrose turn on Roman Reigns. And I know I've been a very vocal critic of the way in which they were going to do this rivalry between Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins before they just kind of binned it off because it was so poorly received. But Dean Ambrose doesn't necessarily have to say, I resent you for getting ill, therefore I want a match with you. But if they can have any kind of subtlety about it whatsoever, I think ultimately this should conclude in Roman Reigns versus Dean Ambrose, because even though I see the wisdom in just jobbing Dean Ambrose out because he's on the way out, who's gaining anything from beating him? Drew McIntyre has got nothing from beating this version of Dean Ambrose because he got binned off by Nia Jax. It means nothing. Have Roman Reigns go over a strengthened Dean Ambrose in a marquee singles match at WrestleMania, and I think that would be a perfect and very fitting end to Dean Ambrose's career, because they would give him something massive on the way out. It would be a nice gesture that would do way much more for Roman than, God forbid, a singles match against Baron Corbin.
The squash, the potential WrestleMania squash.
The fact that it would be a squash, and it would make sense to be a squash, and let's face it, Roman Reigns might not be at the physical capacity to wrestle anything beyond a multi-tag man cameo or a squash match. I could not possibly look forward to that match, no matter how much euphoria carries everybody into it, because it might end up being 6 minutes of Baron Corbin at WrestleMania. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to see that.
I like that fantasy booking scenario, but I'm not so sure that Roman is in a position, maybe physically or mentally, where he wants to do quite an absorbing program in the run up to WrestleMania. I think I'm just happy with the various happy endings that this storyline can feed us. I personally think what they might do for Fastlane is go with the Shield, but not name the Shield, just Ambrose, Rollins, Reigns, and Braun Strowman against like those 4 dorks, and they'll beat them quite easily. And then the Shield reunion can be saved, in official terms, you know, them all putting their fists together for something big for the benefit of Rollins and Brock Lesnar. Like, whether it be that Brock absolutely decimates Ambrose to the point where he's not even at WrestleMania, you know, he doesn't get that last big night, he gets taken out. Like, finally we've seen Ambrose and Rollins make amends over this lovely celebratory news of Roman Reigns, and then on the last Raw before WrestleMania, Brock pushes him down, you know, a flight of stairs or something like that. Gives him the Zach Gowen treatment, something truly awful, so that Reigns can accompany Rollins to ringside or squash Corbin or something like that. I do think we'll just get all the nice bits remaining out of this stable that we've all loved at various different points before Ambrose walks. If he doesn't walk, yes, that changes everything, leaves it all on the table. But I think as a just in case, we'll get something resembling a Shield match on Sunday ahead of them putting the dog tags and the flak jackets on for one more like last stand on Monday Night Raw. Everything to protect Roman as well. Everything physically to protect Roman.
I don't need to reiterate myself here, but I'm going to. Dean Ambrose is not leaving. Dean Ambrose leaving is a work, has always been a work.
It hasn't always been a work.
I've been saying it from the beginning.
I mean, I've never been as in love with the Dean Ambrose character as I have these last 2 months. But whether or not that's as a result of WWE working me or not, I'm not sure.
It's a work. I called it from the beginning. It's a work. But anyway, we're not going to talk about that now. We'll just accept that it's true. It's interesting because obviously we had Roman's triumphant return last week, and according to reports, he's going to be basically every single Monday Night Raw up until May at the bare minimum. Is there any concern that they might not overstay his welcome, but might ruin this really this good feeling that's around him?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not being funny. Like, this company, is not very nice. Just as a general outlook of a company, the general mentality that underpins it is absolutely toxic. So I don't have, and I'm only citing precedent here. You know what I mean? I'm not cynical for the sake of being cynical. This is a toxic company that doesn't do nice things. I mean, how many moments of pure babyface triumph can you remember in the past 10 years? Like, off the top of your head, there aren't many. How many times have they bullied people on screen? Like, it's countless. It's countless. I don't think this company's got the mentality. It's different with Roman. It very much is. He's their top guy. Management absolutely love him, and with good reason. He's been such a hard worker. I just think that if this company cannot grasp in 2018, and it's obviously the circumstances are very, very different. I want to underline that. If they kind of grasp what a magical moment it was for Daniel Bryan to return to the ring, and if they squandered any goodwill surrounding that in record time, I mean, I just don't think they've got the long-term mentality nor the inherent, like, appeasement to want to be able to pull this off. Like, I just cannot see it happening, you know.
Vince McMahon's not good, and he gets worse at this as he gets older, of resisting his worst urges. And I think having Roman back last week, able to do the promo in the opening segment, and then have Roman Reigns, the big dog, the wrestler, back in the later on the segment, that was probably what the fans wanted. Because if anything, I would say him coming back later on to help Seth was a nice surprise, because they thought they'd had their Roman segment and off he went. My worry is that this week he'll immediately think that was great. Like, we need more of it. So more is always more. Roman appears in 4 segments. We get the first cheesy Roman Reigns promo where you kind of feel like you want to leap through the screen and ruffle his hair a little bit. It's like, a good one. Nice to have you back. But really inside you're cringing because some of the dialogue they used to give him was appalling. Like, that's going to happen one week. And when that does, that's going to be the first point at which I have the sinking feeling that we're going to get back there again, and we're going to reach the point where people's patience wears thin. Again, as we've always said, not with Roman Reigns, but with WWE. They're in a point now where he should be on Raw every week, every arena, every live crowd. Certainly, if he's advertised to the Newcastle show post-WrestleMania, I think we'd all be there. It'd be amazing to see Roman Reigns live again and be able to share in this like lovely thing that's happened when it could have been the worst-case scenario. But it's got to be against Vince's better urges not to use him 4 or 5 times every week, especially at WrestleMania season, where there's everybody needs time. Everybody that's going to be on that card, everybody in high-profile roles needs a spot. Roman is the one guy that can just turn up once a week, pop the live crowd, and then disappear again. As long as they don't overexpose him, I think it's going to be fine for the rest of the year. But beyond that, I'm not too optimistic that eventually we won't find ourselves back where we were.
WWE has got a way of inviting pure, unadulterated cynicism. And I've got a hack trick that I do in my articles that nonetheless like does bring into focus just how much things can change and how things can get warped into just an absolutely unbelievable circumstance that nobody could predict. It's like, can you imagine in January of 2018, like hearing the following sentence? Daniel Bryan is going to come back. They are going to botch his babyface turn. They're going to botch that program with The Miz that everyone on Reddit wrote better. And he is going to ultimately end up ahead of WrestleMania 35 as a hard leftist, veganist, socialist heel with Rowan as his buddy. You know what I mean? Like, these sentences that just a year removed from them are just inconceivable to come out of your mouth. And I've got to worry that through no fault of Roman's own, it's never been his fault. It's always been the promotion. It's always been the verbiage. I've got a feeling that in the year 2020, we can say the sentence in a very facetious, snarky way. Can you remember when Roman Reigns returned to WWE with his leukemia in remission, and then they buried him, and then they ruined him?
I think we're doing quite well, and
Or
not
they
saying that
neglected
1
him.
week later on the podcast review of the following.
You know what I mean? It's just, this is a company that, until I can get a good 6 to 12 months of just the change they promised on December 17th, 2018, that I just can't take anything they do seriously. And to be fair, there's a bit of levity in that, which I quite enjoy, but ultimately a lot of cynicism underpins these opinions. So we will see. I will be pleasantly surprised, and I will very gladly acknowledge if I'm wrong, because that's the best part about it.
In terms of that general manager change and that shift that they promised back in December, we're on the verge of a WrestleMania card, and certainly this podcast, yes, we've gone with the stars at the top with Batista and Triple H, the old returning stars. That was becoming a problem with WrestleMania, and we're reaching a point where this card could be filled predominantly with people on the main roster, with people that have been airlifted, rightly or wrongly, out of NXT, rather than relying on legends and old names and people just, digging into the Hall of Fame for anybody that can still work, basically. If this WrestleMania card, in a week's time that we're talking about, that we're looking at after Fastlane, is full of those guys, and then WrestleMania even half delivers, because no show fully delivers anymore, I think we can actually say that like the first quarter of this new experiment has been a success. The week to week, as we analyse it, as we do, it's hard sometimes to see that. But so far, I'm looking at up and down at a WrestleMania card that is predominantly full of guys that I'd like to see in those spots. I don't think Dolph Ziggler's going to be anywhere near his dream singles match, but there's not to say that a lot of his colleagues will, when they probably thought they were Battle Royal bound. So I'm curious to see coming out of Fastlane, can we hold them to account, and can we say, actually, yes, the people we want to see are getting pushed. It is going to somehow be Kofi Kingston versus Daniel Bryan in a WWE title match and things like that. But, as you've pointed out, it's always on the precipice of going back the other way. It's always on WWE reverting to type and letting us down in that regard.
They've, just to go on a complete side path here, they've very much earned a bit of currency with this Kofi Kingston stuff, in that they've elevated out of nowhere like a mid-card stalwart that many people, Adam Wilbourn mostly included, has for a long time petitioned and believed in, because he has like credibility potentially as a headliner. They've completely went with that. Not against the grain, because they had no long-term plan, because they had no long-term plan for the WWE Championship picture at WrestleMania, which for me is an indictment in itself. But ultimately, they've gone against the grain. They've proved me wrong with Kofi Kingston. So perhaps some of my takes on this podcast have been too cynical for their own good. So yeah, we'll see. Raw is going to be fascinating tonight, and I'm very much looking forward to it, which on the path to WrestleMania is, the road. My Brandon's all wrong. On the road, sorry Vince, the road
to the sign.
The road to WrestleMania, I'm highly intrigued, and I'm not completely bored or pissed off beyond belief. So yeah, this week's Raw is going to alter that possibly, but we'll see.
Looking forward to Raw?
I can't wait. Yeah, I'm the same. It's like, I don't know if it's WrestleMania season or just last week. I was so enthusiastic about last week's Raw, and I think that was it. We've talked about 3 big segments, but like, I really enjoyed the whole show, and I got a sense of purpose out of so many more of the characters. I'm thinking about members of the roster again and what they might be doing in a way that I haven't cared about in months, and some of that's by accident. But yeah, like I like to, when I am excited about it, I like to steer into it and be as excited as I possibly can, because at some point we are going to be in July and we're all going to be miserable. So let's just enjoy this while we can.
Well, let us know your thoughts on this. You can either write them in the comment section or tweet them at us on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. Whilst there, you can follow all three of us. You can follow Michael Hamflett at
Michael Hamflett.
So Michael Sidgwick at
M.
You
Sidgwick.
can follow me at Adam Wilbourn. You can follow our lovely editor Chris at EditChrisEdit. And don't forget to tweet everything, though, at WhatCultureWWE. And subscribe to What Culture Wrestling on either iTunes or Spotify for daily wrestling podcasts. This has been Get the Table. My thanks to the Dadley Boyz. Thank you for watching, and we will see you soon.